I actually want to back up one page. We're not going to get done with this today. Very last page of chapter 8. Last 2 pages of chapter 8. In the chapter, The Houses of Healing. Yeah, it's chapter 8. Of the last book, sorry. Book 6. Book 6. Houses of Healing. In this edition, it's pages 870 and 871. So Aragorn has brought Faramir and Merry back from the dark. Eomer is doing that for Éowyn. And they give some kind of final commands, if you want, to the warden of the Houses of Healing. Okay? He says, Éowyn's going to want to get up and leave. Don't let her. He says, restrain her if you can for at least 10 days. All right? He says, Gandalf says about Faramir, he needs to know his father's dead, but he doesn't need to know everything about it. Just let him know his father's dead. Once he's capable, he needs to know he's the steward. Okay? The warden asks about Merry. What about him? Aragorn says he'll probably get out of bed tomorrow. Let him rise. Let him walk with his friends for a little bit. And then we're told in those last 2 paragraphs on page 871, at the doors of the houses, many were already gathered to see Aragorn, and they followed after him. And when at last he had supped, men came and prayed that he would heal their kinsmen or their friends whose lives were in peril through hurt or wound or who lay under the black shadow. That is, those who had kind of come under the spell of the Captain of the Nine, the Lord of the Nazgul, the Witch King of Angmar. And what does Aragorn do? He goes out and he starts healing. Now, has he been proclaimed king? No. Has he entered as king? No. But he's been acknowledged as king by what? Well, okay, but the people acknowledge him as king. How? Because he heals. Okay? He arose and went out, and he sent for the sons of Elrond, and together they labored far into the night. Why the sons of Elrond? Why isn't Aragorn just by himself going out and laying hands on people? What are the sons of Elrond? And as elves, think Glorfindel, they exist how/where? Yeah, in both realms at once. Okay? Elves are also natural healers. Okay? And it's because in Tolkien's cosmology, the elves are tied to the world. Okay? To the actual physical world. The wild world, nature, more than this, glass and plastic monstrosity. And being tied to the world, Tolkien says in some of his letters, and he says this in the drafts of that essay on fairy stories, blew my mind when I was at Oxford several years ago, and I was reading through the drafts because I was going to do an edition of the essay. And he talks about the elves being tied to the physical nature of the world, so that when the world is destroyed/renewed, aka the book of Revelation, the elves disappear. Because it's like their lifeblood. They're tied to it. Humanity does not. Humanity goes on. Okay? And so what happens? He goes out and heals, and people start calling him Elfstone. Why? Because of the green stone that he wore. And so the name which it was foretold at his birth that he should bear was chosen for him by his own people. Okay? And when he finally gets so tired, he goes out and sleeps. So, chapter 9, the last debate. The lords, Gandalf, Aragorn, Éomer, Imrahil, etc., Legolas, they go out and they have a parley, let's say, outside the city of Minas Tirith. Because Aragorn doesn't want to do really anything that emphasizes his kingship until he's actually made king, other than healing. And he simply does that because of exigence. I mean, people are sick and dying. He can't help stopping that. So pages 878 and 79. We get what's called the last debate. And Gandalf begins it by saying, listen to the words of the steward of Gondor. You may triumph in the fields of the Pelennor for a day, but against the power that has now arisen there is no victory. I do not bid you despair as he did, but to ponder the truth in these words. What is the truth? Well, look at the next sentence. The stones of seeing do not lie. Okay? In other words, you know, the other day I put up on the board, what is another modern English word for stones of seeing? Or did I do that in my night class? I think that was my night class. What does the word palantir, not that one, equal in modern English? Television. Far seeing. That's what it means. Okay? Unlike this, though, Gandalf says, these don't lie. If you think this doesn't lie, you've got problems. Okay? But he says, not even the Lord of Barad-dûr can make them do so, but he can, by his will, choose what things shall be seen by weaker minds. Like this. Okay? So, what is he allowed Denethor to see? Massive armies. Okay? What did that do to Denethor? Created in him despair. What is despair? Literally. It comes from de, meaning out of or away from, and the Latin space, meaning hope. No hope. Okay? Gandalf says, but I don't counsel you to despair. So what does he say? We cannot win this war. How?
Through force.
Through force of arms. It cannot be a military victory, Gandalf is saying. They don't have the military to gain the victory. So he says, victory cannot be achieved by arms. Whether you sit here to endure siege after siege or march out to be overwhelmed beyond the river, you have only a choice of evils. Okay? So what are their choices? 1, sit, defend, wait, and ultimately lose. Or 2, attack. And yet we've already been told they can't win by force of arms. So he says, prudence says what? Prudence would counsel you to strengthen such strong places as you have, and there await the onset. So, strengthen Minas Tirith, rebuild the walls outside the Pelennor fields, rebuild Osgiliath, build up a huge army, and wait for Sauron to attack. But when Sauron attacks, eventually what's going to happen? They will lose. Okay? So Imrahil says, okay, so you want us to retreat to Minas Tirith, Dol Amroth, Dunharrow, and wait? Gandalf, no, that's what you've been doing. He said, I do not counsel prudence. What is prudence? When George Bush, the first, used to say that's not prudent, and Dana Carvey used to emulate him on Saturday Night Live, quite good, to be honest. What did he mean? Something wouldn't be prudent. It's wisdom in action. That wouldn't be a wise course of action. Gandalf says, I'm not counseling that kind of wisdom. No, what is he going to suggest? Through these two ideas, what's being omitted? What's left out of this calculus?
Surrender.
No, but that's an interesting point. Do you think any of these people are going to surrender?
No.
No. Okay? So you could, he doesn't even offer that as a third one. Why not? Well, that's definitely not prudent. You surrender to Sauron, what do you get? Zip. Nothing. Okay? No, the thing that's left out of this is the ring. What do we do with the ring? And so he goes on and talks about the ring. If he regains it, top of 879, what happens? Your valor is vain. Vain, useless, pointless, imaginary. It's mere smoke. And his victory will be swift and complete. Okay? This is one of the reasons a lot of people, when the book first came out, said, it's got to be nuclear weapons. If Sauron, and the way some people read this in the 1950s, is Gandalf, these are what? Gandalf and the Lords of the West. Where is Sauron? In the East. What do you have right there? The West, in Soviet Russia and its satellite states. Okay? The Iron Curtain states, so to speak. With the Iron Curtain kind of being like the mountains of Mordor. So, if he regains it, if the East gets this weapon, what happens? We lose. Well, they did get it. They had it in 1949, which is why it's ridiculous to say, the ring equals nuclear weapons. If it is destroyed, Gandalf goes on, then he will fall. And his fall will be so low that none can foresee his arising ever again. Notice he doesn't say Sauron will be destroyed. Why?
That's technically not true.
Okay, one at a time.
That's technically not true. We didn't die.
Okay, that's one. Dale?
The ring only held part of his power, the main part, but only.
Yeah, it's not all of Sauron in the ring. And there's another third reason. Sauron, and Tolkien would say, like all of us, because of his Catholic theology, is ultimately immortal. Not in this stuff we're immortal. Soul is immortal. The only thing that can kill the soul, as Christ says, is the one that made the soul. Okay? So getting rid of the ring doesn't destroy Sauron. It so lessens his power that he's essentially pointless. So he goes on. He will lose the best part of the strength that was native to him in his beginning. Native. What does that mean?
What he always had.
Created with him. Okay? And with that, everything that was made or begun with that power will crumble. That is, Mordor, the Tower of Barad-dûr, will crumble. Okay, the tower will crumble. It's not like the land of Mordor is going to disappear. And you look at the map of Middle-earth and down here is, terra incognita. No. But everything Sauron did to Mordor will eventually go away. And Mordor will just be a land surrounded by mountains. Okay? But what else will die as a result? Okay, the ring is the one ring. It has power over all the other rings. So everything that was done with all those other rings will also die. Lothlorien will eventually just become what?
Forest.
Another old forest. Okay? So he says, and so a great evil of this world will be removed. Notice what he doesn't say there.
All evil.
Yeah. It's not all evil will be destroyed. Other evils there are that may come. For Sauron is himself but a servant or emissary. That's why Tolkien says, it's not our job, Gandalf says, it's not our job to rid the world of all evil. It's our job to rid the world of what? Speaking particularly here, Sauron. But Tolkien says in that introduction, He doesn't like allegory. He likes applicability in history. And he says people who want to read this through those kind of lenses of applicability in history, you can then do what? Well, apply what he's saying here to our world. Is it our job to rid the world of terrorism? This is why George Bush II made a foolish statement in his speech to Congress on September 20th, 2011. He said, we are going to have a great war on terror and we are going to rid the world of terrorism. How do you rid the world of terrorism? Kill everybody but me. Why? Because any one of you, if we're the last two left, if I say, mine, and she says, mine, terrorist, that's why communism will never work. Okay? You can't rid the world of terrorism. Can you rid the world of individual terrorists? Okay? Or you can attempt to, at least. So what are other evils of our world that we can try to rid it of? Can we rid it of hatred? No, we can't. Can we rid it of poverty? No, we can't. Can we rid it of racism? No, we can't. Not the world. We can try in our own little spheres by not being racist, by helping people who are poor or hungry or needy, etc. Okay? That's why he says, it's not our part to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the succor. Not a word we use very often. It means comfort, consolation of those years wherein we are set. What should we, specifically as Americans, try to rid our world of in our own day? I know some will say Trump, some will say Hillary, not like that. What is the problem confronting us in the United States? Okay, I'm not foreign. So, not crazy fat little man in North Korea. Debt. How about the national debt? 20 trillion and, How about the problems associated with Social Security? I'm 55. I don't think I'm going to see it. I should get it in 10 to 12 years. You guys, you're sunk, man. You're paying for it, but you're sunk. Okay? It's a Ponzi scheme. Has been from the beginning, but it's even more so now. How about that? Healthcare. That is a problem of our world. When I had my shoulder surgery, just a little example. My shoulder surgery, hospital bills, $57,000, which I didn't pay a dime of. Why? Because of my insurance. You know why it's $57,000? Because of the insurance racket. Okay? That's what's got to be addressed. Not, doctors are too rich, they demand too much. That's the kind of stuff Tolkien is talking about. Okay, now you could bring in racism, poverty, injustice in our own little circles and lives. Okay, so he goes on. We got to uproot the evils in our world. Evils there will be for generations to come. What weather they shall have, that's not up to us to decide. But we shouldn't kick the problems we face down to our heirs. And that's where you could look at then foreign policy. Crazy little fat guy in North Korea. Who should have dealt with that? Okay, you're going way back. You're going back to the Korean War, which technically is still going on. We never signed a peace treaty. We are technically in a what? Armistice or truce, which is why, 30 years ago we had 57,000 Americans stationed as a tripwire. Now there's only 28. Okay, but who after Truman? I mean, don't list all the presidents. In terms of the nuclear problem, when does that go back to? Clinton. It was Clinton, 1994. Because Jimmy Carter went over and stuck his nose where it didn't belong and said, I made up a nice little agreement. What's that? They'll give up all their nuclear ambitions. We give them all kinds of aid and help them build nuclear reactors for peaceful energy. Well, what happened with that? 2006, they detonate their first nuclear explosion. George Bush II didn't help. George Bush I didn't help. What did George Bush I do? Anybody know? 1992, pulled tactical nuclear weapons out of South Korea. As soon as he did that, it kind of created a level playing field for North Korea. So now they have nukes, and the South is starting to say, can you send some of those back? We'd like to balance it out a little bit. Okay? So, Gandalf goes on. Sauron understands all this. So what is Sauron thinking? He knows this precious thing which he lost has been found again. Okay? What does that mean? It's been lost for a long time. Now it's been found. What is Sauron thinking? Where is it? Who has it? And he looks at Aragorn and says, he knows there are some here who can wield this thing. For do I not guess rightly, Aragorn, you've shown yourself to him? He said, yes, I did. I deemed the time was ripe, and that the stone had come to me for just such a purpose. Hold on. This is as a reminder to myself to talk about this. It was 10 days since the ring bearer went east from Rauros, and the eye of Sauron, I thought, should be drawn out from his own land. Too seldom has he been challenged. In other words, he says, here's Mordor, way down here, kind of looks like an E. Okay? Barad-dûr is here, Orodruin is here, the Hornburg is up here, Frodo is sneaking in over here, and Aragorn says, I wanted to draw Sauron's attention where? Away from Frodo. Frodo's down here, I get his eye to look up this way. I don't want him looking at his back door. Does Sauron know there's a secret way in? Yeah, of course he does. It's the secret way. He does what? Lets Gollum escape. See, Gollum thought he escaped. Gandalf and Aragorn know otherwise. Okay? Éomer. Yeah, but you say all is vain if he has the ring. Why should he not? Why should he think it not vain to assail us if we have it? Gandalf. He's not yet sure. He doesn't know yet. So, he's expecting what? Gandalf, Aragorn, Glorfindel, Elrond, Galadriel, Celeborn, Círdan the shipwright at the Grey Havens. Any one of these can wield the ring. Hell, maybe even Boromir, if he was still alive. Not to the extent that any of those others would be able to, but he would still be pretty fierce and fearsome. So, Gandalf says, his doubt is growing. His eye is now straining towards us, blind almost to all else that is moving. Okay, blind to all else means what? He's not paying attention to anything else. He has a singular focus. Well, what's it easy to do to someone who has a singular focus? Yeah. Or go around them. If they're only looking this way, you can easily walk around their back. So he says, here's what we must do. As Aragorn has done, page 880, we must go on. We must push Sauron to his last throw. What does he mean? Here's the Black Gates. We have to go knock on his front door. Gandalf says, we must walk open-eyed into that trap, with courage, but small hope for ourselves. Now, what does he mean, small hope? Does he mean little hope? No, there is still a little hope. How much little is that hope? It's like infinitesimal. The little teeny tiny bit of hope is that when we go knock on the door and draw out Sauron's millions, that Frodo will, in the nick of time, drop the ring before we get slaughtered. He says, "For my lords, it may well prove that we ourselves shall perish utterly in a black battle far from the living lands, so that even if Barad-dûr be thrown down, we shall not live to see a new age." But that's our duty. They become what to Sauron?
Bait.
Bait. Exactly. They become the bait to draw Sauron out. Why? If he empties Mordor, it becomes easier for Frodo to get across. And when Frodo and Sam get in, what happens? They do meet up with marching orcs, right? Where are the orcs marching to? They're not going south. They're not even going to Cirith Ungol. They're making their way north for the big battle that is to come. So, how many march off? Is it just these 10 or so? I mean, are they really making themselves suckers?
6,000.
Yeah, it's like 10,000 total. Okay? They leave a little defense at Gondor because, I mean, they realize if we lose here, it doesn't matter if we leave any behind at Gondor because they're going to fall too. Okay? So, the Black Gate opens. They march on to the Black Tower, to the Black Gate, and everywhere they go, you know, there are heralds out blowing horns. Hail Aragorn, you know, King of Gondor, everyone bow down and worship and all that kind of nonsense. They get to the Black Gate, and what happens? What do you have to have between two foreign countries? What is the whole purpose of the UN? Well, supposedly,
Diplomacy.
diplomacy, which means diplomatic speak, where you don't offend anybody, but you also don't really say anything. Okay? The mouth of Sauron comes out. He is Sauron's ambassador. Okay? And he says, bottom of page 888, "Is there anyone in this rout with authority to treat with me, or with wit to understand me?" Okay, now that's not nice diplomatic. That's Trump talk. Okay? And personally, I liked what Trump said at the UN the other day. It's about time somebody spoke like that to that rotten, corrupt body. Anyways, "or indeed with wit to understand me." Okay, so what has he just done? Yeah, he's dissed them in two ways. You guys are all peons compared to me, and you're too dumb to understand me. Okay? So, I don't mean to offend anybody, but I'm going to use language I grew up using. Low-life retards. That's essentially what he said they are. "Not thou at least," he turns to Aragorn. It needs more to make a king than a piece of elvish glass, or a rabble such as this." Notice Aragorn doesn't take the bait. He just stands there. He just stands there, sits there on his horse. "But he took the other's eye and held it, and for a moment they strove thus. But soon, though Aragorn did not stir nor move hand to weapon," what? "The other quailed, shakes, backs up a little bit, and gave back as if menaced with a blow. I am a herald and ambassador, and may not be assailed." Why? I think it was this class I mentioned the other day, or it might have been my night class. Diplomatic immunity. See, diplomats can't be arrested in their host country. All they have to do is pull out their Monopoly, do not go to jail card for whatever offense. It could be a parking ticket. It could be murder. You can't arrest a diplomat. Okay? It's crazy. Absolutely, utterly crazy. Gandalf, "Where such laws hold, it is also the custom for ambassadors to use less insolence." In other words, talk more nicely next time. "But no one has threatened you. You have naught to fear from us." Now, was Gandalf in the staring contest with Aragorn? Nope. So what do you think the mouth of Sauron really saw when he was in this staring contest? Maybe it's not just a piece of elf glass. Maybe there's more to this rabble than he said there was. Okay? So he addresses Gandalf. Then thou art the spokesman, old graybeard. Notice he doesn't address him by his name. Olorin, Mithrandir, Tharkun, graybeard, old man. So, what does he do? Looky what I have. And he holds out a couple things. There, to the wonder and dismay of all the captains, he held up first the short sword that Sam had carried, next a grey cloak with an elven brooch, and last the coat of mithril that Frodo had worn. So what does that tell Gandalf et al.? Or what does he think it tells Gandalf? They have Frodo and Sam, notice. Sam's sword, an elven cloak. Frodo's mithril coat. How do you get Frodo's mithril coat, which is like his t-shirt that he wears under everything else? Well, he obviously had to be stripped. Does Frodo take that off to take baths? We don't even know that Frodo takes baths on this journey. Okay? Probably doesn't. Where is he going to take a bath in Mordor? So, Pippin cries out. Gandalf, silence! So you have another of these imps with you. What use you find in them, I cannot guess. But to send them as spies into Mordor is beyond even your accustomed folly. Still, now I know that these were dear to you. Gandalf says, I don't deny that. So, name your terms. What are his terms? Everything from Mordor to the Gap of Rohan pays tribute to Sauron. And you can't have any weapons there. Okay, no guns. Gun-free zone. This is a safe zone. Okay? Who's it a safe zone for? Sauron. Is it a safe zone for those without the weapons? No, not really. Okay? You can tell where I would go with that if I had more time. What does Gandalf say about these terms? Kind of what the general said at the Battle of the Bulge. Nuts. In other words, yeah, F you, buddy. But he does say, we'll take these things. And he rides forth and takes the cloak, the knife, the mithril coat. He says, in memory of our friends. And right as that happens, the black gates open and all hell breaks loose. And what happens to Pippin? Last page of the chapter. Pippin's kind of fighting there, because, he's this tall. Okay, he's a little bit taller now because he's been drinking, int beer. And he stabs upwards. Why? Because a big old giant mountain troll is getting ready to fall on him. And he's just doing essentially what Sam did to Shelob. And what Eowyn did to the Black Rider, And it falls on him, and notice what we're told. His sword it pierced through the hide and went deep, this is the very bottom of 892, and went deep into the vitals of the troll, and his black blood came gushing out. Okay, so when it comes gushing out, where does it come gushing out? All over Pippin. That's probably why he faints. Well, the weight of, I guess an 800-pound troll or so falling on him. And he thinks, so it ends as I guessed it would. Laughed a little within him, this thought did before it fled. And then he thinks, wait a second, I'm in The Hobbit. The eagles are coming. The eagles are coming, he hears. Wait, that's Bilbo's story. That's not my story. I read that story. That story ended good. How does Pippin think his story is ending before he blacks out? Yeah, not well. It's a good way of putting it. Okay? And then we get book 6. And Tolkien takes us all the way back to the Tower of Cirith Ungol. And we have 35 minutes. Okay. So, Sam puts on the ring and he hears all this stuff. He hears the orcs. He takes the ring off. at page 900. He realizes it would be hopeless for him to go on. Bottom of that page. His thought turned to the ring, and there is no comfort there, only dread and danger. No sooner had he come inside of Mount Doom, burning far away, than he was aware of a change in his burden. He's now wearing the ring around his neck, like Frodo did. As it drew near the great furnaces, where in the deeps of time it had been shaped and forged, the ring's power grew, and it became more fell, untamable, save by some mighty will. As Sam stood there, even though he's not wearing the ring, it's just around his neck, what does the ring do to him?
Kind of weighs him down.
Okay, Dad, and what else? Sam, look what you could do. Yeah, exactly. Look what you could become. And it shows Sam the real. He felt that he had, from now on, page 901, only two choices. To forbear the ring, though it would torment him, or to claim it and challenge the power that sat in its dark hold beyond the valley of shadows. Already the ring tempted him, gnawing at his will and reason. Wild fantasies arose in his mind. No, not Rosie Cotton. He saw Samwise the Strong, hero of the age, striding with a flaming sword across the darkened land, armies flocking to his call as he marched to the overthrow of Barad-dûr. And then all the clouds rolled away. What clouds? The darkness that is perpetually over Mordor. And what happened? And the white sun shone, and at his command the Vale of Gorgoroth became a garden of flowers and trees and brought forth fruit. He had only to put on the ring and claim it for his own. And all this could be. He's a gardener. Giant garden. What enables him not to succumb to the temptation? We're told in that hour of trial, it was the love of his master that helped most to hold him firm. But also deep down in him lived still unconquered his plain hobbit sense. What does Tolkien mean by his plain hobbit sense? Okay? Colon. He knew in the core of his heart he was not large enough to bear such a burden. What does that mean? His plain hobbit sense, ultimately, his humility. I don't want all that, and that's too much for me. Even if such visions were not a mere cheat to betray him, the one small garden of a free gardener was all his need and due, not a garden swollen to a realm. See, Sam would never become, and I'm not saying that any of these individuals have been tempted by the ring, but Sam would never become a Bill Gates. He would never become a Donald Trump. He would never become a Warren Buffett. He would never become, name your billionaire. Okay? Why? I don't need all that. What's he need? His own little garden. Sam's 4 feet tall. How big of a garden can he till and plant in a couple of hours? 30, 40 square feet? How big is a hobbit garden? Not very big. Okay? As long as he is what? Free. Okay? It's that and his love for Frodo that enabled him to throw off the temptation of the ring. But what did Tolkien write on the previous page? It became more fell, untamable, save by some mighty will. The plain old hobbit sense is that mighty will. That knowing, I don't need much. just a little bit to satisfy my needs. So, he doesn't put on the ring. How does he find Frodo? Does he play investigator and look for hobbit footprints? Or?
Sings one of the songs you heard in Riddle.
He sings a song, okay, which attracts the notice of the elves. And he keeps doing it, and he finds that the elves have killed each other. All except for two. Sorry, orcs. Orcs have killed each other. Why? They're fighting over Frodo's stuff. Okay. They want to be the one to deliver Frodo to Sauron, because, probably pretty good perks go along with that. And he hears a noise. And he goes and he finds Frodo. 9:10, 9:11. Okay. And Frodo's kind of bummed, obviously, and naked. And so Sam gives him clothes. He says he can walk, that he's not hurt, only tired, and he has a pain. Feels back at the bite. Sam unties him and such. And Frodo says, the exact middle of page 911, they've taken everything, Sam. Everything. Do you understand? Hello, Sam, dummy. Everything. He cowers on the floor and bows his head. The quest has failed, Sam. Even if we get out of here, we can't escape. Only elves can escape. Away out of Middle-earth, far away over the sea, if even that is wide enough to keep the shadow out. I mean, he's really low. Only the elves can escape. Sam, no, not everything, Mr. Frodo. Hasn't failed yet, not yet. I took it, Mr. Frodo, begging your pardon. I've kept it safe. It's round my neck now. I suppose you must take it back, says Sam, notice, reluctant to give up the ring. You've got it? You've got it here? Sam, you're a marvel. Then quickly, his tone changes. Give it to me. Give it to me once. You can't have it. Chill, man. Okay. He said, but maybe I could share it every now and then. No, you won't, you thief. Kind of, channeling his inner Gollum there. And then he realizes, sorry, Sam, it wasn't me, it was the ring, etc. So, they change into Morgul gear. Why? Once in Rome, do as the Romans do. You go walking around in elf clothing in the middle of Mordor, maybe stand out a little bit. So, they enter into Mordor. They have to get by the Watchers. What happens when they walk through that invisible barrier-like thing?
Set up an alarm.
Yeah, it's like a laser trip wire. Alarm bells ring. Okay. So, bottom of 918. They're going on along, and Frodo says, well, top of 418. Shoot, just always find more. I've been teaching this damn class for 20 years. He says, look here, Sam, I'm tired, weary. I haven't a hope left. But I have to go on trying to get to the mountain. Okay? And Frodo, as Sam says at the bottom of the page, dear now, Mr. Frodo, it's you that's talking of water this time. If only the lady could see us or hear us, I'd say to her, all we want is light and water. A little bit of light, a little bit real water, not the Morgul stuff. Okay? And what happens? They start off again. Frodo feels a black rider over them. And then it passes. And top of 919, we get this. Away to their left, southward, against the sky that was turning gray, the peaks and high ridges of the great range began to appear dark and black, visible shapes. Light was growing behind them. Slowly, it crept towards the north. Okay? They're moving this direction. This is south. This is north, west, east. The light starts to show this direction so that they can see the outline of the mountains. Okay? And what happens? There was battle far above in the high spaces of the air. That's very biblical kind of language, by the way. Very St. Paulian. The billowing clouds of Mordor were being driven back, their edges tattering as a wind out of the living world came up and swept the fumes and smokes towards the dark land of their home. Under the lifting skirts of the dreary canopy, dim light leaked into Mordor, like pale morning through the grimed window of a prison. Okay? Notice how qualified that is. Like pale light through the grimed window, like these windows are kind of grainy, especially that last one, of a prison. Obviously, someplace you can't get out. Look at it, Mr. Frodo. Look at it. The wind's changed. Something's happening. He's not having it all his own way. His darkness is breaking up in the world out there. And what are we told? It's March 15th. Okay? And what is happening in the outside world? Theoden lay dying on the Pelennor fields. What's about to happen? Or what has just happened? The ring wraith, captain of the Nine, has been destroyed. Because Theoden doesn't die until after that. Merry crawls up to him, and they have a last few words. Theoden says, I will never smoke with you now in peace, etc. Okay? So, we're told the Lord of the Ring Wraiths had met his doom. Sam, what did I tell you? The war's going well. What is that an example of, by the way? It is a littler, not real small, but it's a eucatastrophe. Okay? So, he asked for light. He got light. They go on. Bottom of the next page, 920. They hear the tinkle of water. Sam sprang towards it. If ever I see the lady again, I will tell her, he cried. Light and now water. Let me drink first, Mr. Frodo. Frodo's like, hey, man, budge over. There's enough room for both of us. Sam's like, that's not what I meant, Mr. Frodo. I know what you meant, Sam. Why does Sam want to drink first? What if it's poisonous? Okay? So they both drink. If I could ask her ladyship a question or a favor, I would ask. And both things happen. Is that answered prayer? I'm not saying it is. I'm just asking, is it answered prayer? Okay? So they go on. Now we're going to skip a bunch. Sam tells Frodo, Gollum's about. He's followed us. He's still behind us. And we get to chapter 3, Mount Doom. Okay? Bottom of that first page of that chapter. Sam's looking towards Mount Doom. He's trying to guess how far it is. And he says, it looks every step of 50 miles. That'll take a week if it takes a day. A week. Okay, 50 miles, 7 miles a day. We're talking hobbit footsteps, hobbit strides, not hours. It's a lot of steps. Okay? Plus, it's not easy walking. Page 934. Sam realizes we're going to run out of food, we're going to run out of water. And it's 50 miles yet to go. So that was the job I felt I had to do when I started. To help Mr. Frodo to the last step and then die with him. So that's kind of, Frodo's been at this mentality for how long? Oh, since Cirith Ungol at least. Okay? He says, so that's it, huh? Well, okay. But I'd dearly like to see Bywater again. Why? Because there's a pub. And Rosie Cotton and her brothers and the gaffer and Marigold and all. Can't think somehow that Gandalf would have sent Mr. Frodo on this errand if there hadn't been any hope. Okay? Things all went wrong when he went down in Moria. Wish he hadn't. He would have done something. But even as hope died in Sam, what happens? Or seemed to die. It was turned to a new strength. Sam's plain hobbit face grew stern, grim, as the will hardened in him. What happens to Sam at that point? It's almost like he becomes, because in many ways it's not, but it's almost like he becomes a robot. Robot does what? What it's programmed to do. Sam's programming is what? Get Frodo to the mountain. Get Frodo to the mountain. whatever it takes. Okay? So, we skip a bit, go to 9:37. Sam wakes up Frodo. Frodo says, I can't manage it, Sam. It's too much. Sam says, well, I can carry it then. He says, no, Sam. Right in the middle of the page. It is my burden. No one else can carry it. It is too late now, Sam dear. You can't help me in that way again. I am almost in its power now. I could not give it up. And if you try to take it, I should go mad. Okay. What did he just say? Is it the ring is winning? Or the ring has won? I could not give it up. What's that telling us right there? We've still got, about 100 pages to go. Yeah, Frodo's failed. He says, I can't give up the ring. Then why go the additional steps? Why even try to get to the mountain if Frodo's not going to destroy the ring? Well, Sam's programming says, get Frodo to the mountain. Sam nods. I understand. He says, but I'm thinking, why don't we lighten the load a bit? It's no good taking anything we're not sure to need. What do they need, really? Food, which they don't have. So forget that. Sam's carrying what with him? His cooking gear. Okay? Coleman stove, propane. He dumps all that. What else does he dump? Elven rope. So what do they carry with them to Mount Doom? The clothes on their backs and the ring. Okay? Sorry, they have their elven cloaks. They're underneath their orc gear. They take off the orc gear. Okay? Page 939. Frodo's asleep. Sam's awake. Sam's thinking. And Sam thinks, one more day will do it. And then another voice in Sam, kind of the Smeagol Gollum. Another voice says, don't be a fool, Sam Gamgee. He won't go another day like that if he moves at all. And if you can't go on, and you can't go on much longer giving him all the water and most of the food. I can go on, and I will. Where to? To the mountain, of course. But then what? Then what, Sam? Then what are you going to do? He won't be able to do anything for himself. What is Sam telling himself there? Then what, Sam? You going to take the ring from him? What did Frodo say would happen to his mind if Sam tried to forcefully take the ring? He'd go crazy. To his dismay, Sam realized he didn't have an answer to this. It's just, I'll get him to the mountain. And then I'll think of something. Okay? Bottom of 940. They get to the bottom of the mountain. How? Because Sam carries Frodo. And somebody could have seen it. What are we told? They would see what looks like a hobbit child going piggyback on some romp in the lawns. They reach the mountain's foot. Sam asks, how far, Frodo? Don't know. What does he mean? What do you mean you don't know? Sam's got to be thinking. Frodo doesn't know where what's called the Sameth Nower is. That's the cracks of doom. It's not like Frodo can pull out a map and says, you go up here about 30 clicks, you turn right or head east, and then. So, they take a rest. Frodo tells Sam he'll crawl. Bottom of 942. And while they're crawling, the Eye of Sauron is looking out towards the captains of the West. Because where are they? Right outside his front door. Sam kneels by Frodo because Frodo says, help me, Sam, help me. What's happening? The ring held on the chain around his neck is trying to get Frodo to put his finger through it. So Sam grabs Frodo's hand and pulls it down. And as he holds Frodo and holds his arm down, wham! Hit upside the head. Wicked master! It hissed. Wicked master cheats us, cheats me on Gollum. He mustn't go that way, he mustn't hurt precious. Give it to Gollum, yes, give it to us, give it to us. Sam rises up, pulls out his sword, and Frodo yells, down, down, down. A little bit of foreshadowing there, by the way, because that's what's going to happen to Gollum. You cannot betray me or slay me now. And then Sam looks at Frodo and Gollum, we're told, with other vision. Like when Pippin looks at Gandalf and Saruman with other vision. Like Legolas looks at Aragorn in the fields of Rohan with other vision. Okay? And what does he see? A crouching shape, page top of 944, scarcely more than the shadow of a living thing, a creature now wholly ruined and defeated, yet filled with a hideous lust and rage. And before it stood stern, untouchable now by pity, a figure robed in white. Why is Frodo untouchable by pity? He's totally in control of the ring. The ring now has mastery. And out of the fire at the figure clothed in white's breast, a voice speaks. Okay, what's the ring of fire? The ring. And a voice speaks out of the ring. Is this Frodo the ventriloquist? Begone and trouble me no more. If you touch me ever again, you shall be cast yourself into the fire of doom. You can get on the internet, get on various discussion boards. That is a major what's called, can't remember the Latin phrase. Locus cruci or something like that. It is a major point of contention. Who is speaking? Is that Frodo speaking through the ring, or is it the ring itself actually speaking? Because it says, if you touch me ever again, is the me Frodo, or is the me the ring? The crouching shape backed away, terror in its blinking eyes. Sam says, look out, he'll spring. Go on, Mr. Frodo. I'll deal with him. He still has his sword out. Frodo doesn't quite run, but hobbles on up. And Sam says, now, at last, I can deal with you. He leaps forward, and notice, Gollum doesn't move. Gollum just falls upon the ground and whimpers. Don't kill us, don't hurt us with nasty cruelty. Let us live, yes. Live just a little longer. Lost, lost. Live just a little longer. What does Gollum know? The ring's about to be destroyed. When the ring is destroyed, Gollum will be destroyed. Not even if Gollum destroys the ring, because Gollum is only alive because of the power of the ring. He claws in the ashes and says, and when precious goes will die, yes, die into the dust, dust. Like ashes to ashes, dust to dust. That's very much what Tolkien has in mind. And Sam's like, damn it. His mind was hot with wrath and the memory of evil. It would be just to slay this treacherous creature, murderous creature, just and many times deserved. He deserves death, Frodo said at the beginning of the novel. He is just an enemy. But deep in his heart, there was something that restrained him. He could not strike this thing lying in the dust, forlorn, ruinous, utterly wretched. He himself, though only for a little while, had borne the ring, and what? And now dimly he guessed the agony of Gollum's shriveled mind and body, enslaved to that ring, unable to find peace or relief. Period. No. Tolkien doesn't end the sentence there. Why not? Because he says, peace or relief ever in life again. Why add that qualifier, ever in life again?
Because we'll find peace in death.
Louder, so everybody can hear.
Because we'll find peace in death.
Because he will find peace and relief in death. Death will be what for Gollum?
Mercy.
Mercy, okay? And possibly something else. Oh, curse you, you stinking thing, go away. Sam goes up, follows Frodo. He sees Frodo because he sees his outline, essentially, because of the fires behind him. And what does Frodo do? Bottom of 945. I have come, but I do not choose now to do what I came to do. I will not do this deed. The ring is mine. It sounds like, oh my God. I get him all the way here. Well, Frodo told him miles ago, I can't give it up, Sam. And suddenly, he disappears. Notice, he doesn't just claim the ring and stick it in his pocket. What's the purpose of a ring? Any ring. It's to be worn. He claims it, puts it on his finger. Sam gets nailed in the back again. He's like, this time I'm... And what happens? Far away, as Frodo put on the ring and claimed it for his own, even in Samath Naur, the very heart of his realm, the power in Barad-dûr was shaken. What does Sauron say to himself? Way up here. He's putting forth all his energy, where? Against the captains of the West. And some midget back here at his forge does what?
It's on the ring.
Yeah, yoo-hoo, I've got the ring, it's mine. I challenge you to a duel. Single combat, 3-foot tall midget versus angelic being. And what does Sauron do? Notice what we're told. He shakes. Why? And the tower trembles from the foundations to its proud and bitter crown. What does Sauron, colloquially, street language, say to himself? Oh, shh. Because what does he realize at that point? He knows exactly where the ring is. And the ring is where?
The one place it can be destroyed.
It is literally feet from the fire that forged it. So what does he do? His eye, piercing all shadows, looked across the plain to the door that he had made, and the magnitude of his own folly was revealed to him in a blinding flash, and all the devices of his enemies were at last laid bare. And he's probably thinking, Gandalf, damn you, you turkey old bastard, never would have thought. And what happens? The other 8 Nazgul immediately make U-turns wherever they are, and they fly like bats out of hell to hell. Bats back to hell. Okay? And his minions were told, his orcs and everyone fighting for him, they kind of lose their willpower. Like, why are we fighting? I mean, they're orcs, they like to fight anyways, but they're like, why here, why now? And Sam sees Gollum kind of dancing around, and then suddenly he sees Gollum holding a finger. And on the finger is a ring, and he sees Frodo again. Precious, 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 my precious, oh, Brit! How is that different from the film? The ring falls, and what happens to it? It lands on a ledge. Cue the ending of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Because what happens there? The Holy Grail falls into a crack. And Indy reaches down, and his father is holding onto his legs. He goes, hold on, Dad, I can get it, I can get it. What does his father say? Let it go. Frodo says, I can get it, Sam, I can get it. What? Gollum is destroyed, the ring is destroyed, and Frodo says, bottom of 947, this is the end, Sam. Frodo's, holding his hand because it's, think Monty Python and Black Knight. Frodo says, Do you remember Gandalf's words? Even Gollum may have something yet to do. But for him, Sam, I could not have destroyed the ring. Well, I don't think Tolkien intends this, but Frodo's taking a little more credit there than he really deserves, right? Frodo didn't destroy the ring. Gollum did. Frodo said, initially, I really do wish to destroy the ring, or to have it destroyed. Notice, both statements come into play. He gets it there, but it is destroyed by another. The quest would have been in vain, even at the bitter end. So let us forgive him, for the quest is achieved and now is all over. I'm glad you're with me here, Sam. Here at the end of all things, let us sit down and do what? Die, exactly. And Sam's like, well, Mr. Frodo, I'm not quite yet. So we get chapter 4, the Field of Kermallen, and we have 4 minutes to cover what I was going to talk about. So, Gwaihir and Gandalf come and rescue them. And what are we told? Gandalf says, it's the 14th of the new year, page 952, the 8th day of April in the Shire reckoning, but in Gondor, the new year will always now begin with the 25th of March. It's been 10 days since they got their water and light. It's now March 25th. Why does Tolkien have the ring destroyed on March 25th? Anybody here Catholic? What's the importance of that date? It's the Feast of the Annunciation. It's when Gabriel announced to Mary, you're going to bear a child, and that child will be the Son of God. How do you know it's the Feast of the Annunciation? 9 months from that is what? Christmas. Okay? Tolkien literally believed that it was March 25th that the Annunciation occurred. He also suggests in one of his letters, it's also the day of creation. When the world was created was March 25th. I don't know how he figures that, because I don't know how you have months before everything comes to be, Anyways, Sam and Frodo are taken back to the Field of Kermallen, and okay, we'll stop here. We'll pick up on Monday, because we're going to finish this on Monday, obviously. I don't think we won't take the whole period, so bring the Harry Potter book. But we're going to pick up on, essentially, page 960 in the chapter, The Steward and the King.
When do we have Sorcerer's Stone also read by?
I would have it read by Monday.
Monday?
If we spend 20 minutes in here, we can get through the Philosopher's Stone in the remaining time, because I'm going to skip a lot. No, it'd probably be Thursday if I give one.
You've seen the cartoon version of Lord of the Rings, haven't
Yeah.
you? Why do they call him Arrow instead of Saruman? Have you ever heard that?
It's been so long since I've seen that. They call him Arrow?
Yeah, like Gandalf literally goes, Arrow after he betrays him.
No, I haven't really watched it because I think I have. Oh, yeah. I don't know.
It's different. But,
It's been so long since I've seen that. I'll have to watch it.
okay. Yeah, I was just curious how you hear it.
Question?
I have a Spanish project due today, on top of everything else.
Was it a cultural project?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing my notes last night, and I'm emailing them myself so I can think about it at work this morning. And I managed to send them to Dr. Calkin. And I'm like, she doesn't want these. So I had to email her like, I'm really sorry, I don't know why that just happened.
You should have been like, can I get extra credit?
I'm like, do you wanna know about Columbia? So, that's exciting.
You know, some professors would actually like to hear that because, you know, it shows one that some students are taking notes. You'd be amazed at the number of students who literally don't do anything. I mean, they come to class, no books, no notes, no pen, they just sit there.
See, that gives me anxiety. I don't know how people do
Yeah.
that.
Oh, is that?
Well, you can guess what kind of grades they use.
Yeah. No, I would like to get into a grad school, so I don't get to fly like that. Wish I did.
Wouldn't that be?
Wouldn't it be nice?
Where are you going to? I don't know what to do with my major.
Oh, I'm going to law school.
Okay. My dad's a dentist. Do you want to be a teacher long term? I talked to somebody about that, a teacher, and she said that she didn't figure out her specialization, what she wanted to do for grad school until she actually got into school and her classroom and figured out that her school. I thought about going to get my license as for a speech therapist so I can work with special needs kids too.
Yeah, that'd be
But then at
awesome.
the same time, I'm like, oh, I have to be an administrator.
Yeah.
And they have to.
Amen. Just keep going to school so you figure it out.
Oh, don't become an administrator. You go to the dark side.
Okay.
If you're going to do anything with schools, be a teacher.
Let's say you might be
Well,
kind of
that's why
green.
there aren't good administrators, because the people who actually love teaching.
Teaching.
Well, the problem is you have some, but the best administrators are those who have spent a significant amount of time in the classroom. What are really bad, my own opinion here, is people who major in educational leadership but have never stepped in the classroom.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you do get up to places like one secondary, you know, high schools and stuff, and then colleges, when you have, for example, presidents who have never been in a classroom.
Yep.
I'd rather have a regular CEO of a company become a university president than somebody like that. You really need. I mean, this is one of the things, for example, that I like so much about our provost, Mark Burns. He's pure academic. I mean, he did his bachelor's here, got a degree from the London School of Economics when he left here, then went to Vanderbilt, got his master's and PhD, then got his job here, and was in political science for 10 or 15 years before he became the interim dean or associate dean of liberal arts, and then interim dean, and then provost, finally, not interim provost, this year. But he's someone with tons of academic and scholarly experience.
Yeah.
That's what universities need.
Yeah. Well, with high schools, it's just frustrating because you get teachers who or you get administrators who are just so green about the standards and everything like that, and it's enforcement, but they've never had to apply it themselves, and so it's just a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
I'm at a high school right now, and I've been talking to a teacher, and he's been teaching for forever, and he's just done, and it sucks because he's an awesome teacher, best one I ever had, and so I get discouraged. But I'm still gonna do it.
I wish we could just have one-room schoolhouses.
Yeah.
You're accountable to the parents in the community, and they have a board, just local.
Go teach where my dad grew up. They have that,
That's awesome.
but they also have like less than 1,000 people. So.
Yeah, the problem, you know, one of the problems with secondary schools today is not so much even the administrators, it's the bean counting. It's merely doing things to check off that you're following this policy and that policy. I mean, my kids, I've got two in high school, junior and senior, they get so upset because, one, they're just bored. And the kind of work they do is often just busy work. I mean, they're both bright enough, give them an assignment, they could do the assignment, but they've got to go through step A through Z as part of the completion of that assignment.
Yep.
Rather than just, let me research it, let me go solve it on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I don't want to teach high school. I want to do middle school. I'm
Yeah.
starting to think I want middle school. I mean, I know middle school isn't much better, but the kids That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what middle school
Ooh,
you guys
yeah,
are.
really, boy.
Well, the middle school I was in last semester, the kids were good. The kids were really good, and then I was in a AB, which is even like higher than like AP classroom the semester before in high
Baccalaureate.
school, and they were good kids. They were smart, but they didn't talk. I mean, they didn't say a word. And I'm teaching a lesson, and they're very smart. It's just they're just so non-interactive, and that's like discouraging because it's like you can't catch their interest no matter what you do. And so, I mean, I got like the teacher was like, "Hey, that was a really great lesson," and I was like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "No, like that was something I would have taught." And then I said, "Okay, seriously, what's going on?" Then I teach the middle school kids, and they were so excited and so happy. And maybe they weren't as smart, but at least they wanted to be there. Yeah. And that's also, I was at a really good middle school though, so it's different. They have good administration and good teachers. So Rutherford County's not too bad, good place here.